I'll make good use of your kidney. Now, let's get divorced. The surgery stitches hadn't even started to heal when my husband Darius tossed the divorce papers onto my hospital bed. There wasn't a hint of remorse on his face. Seeing his cold expression, I crumpled to the floor and burst into tears. Satisfied with my reaction, Darius walked out of the room. But he didn't know. He didn't know that the moment the door clicked shut, a smile spread across my lips, and those tears were just the first act of my perfect revenge. This is where today's story begins. The late afternoon sun streaming through the hospital window bathed Darius's bed at Mount Sinai Hospital in white light. Aliya Everett, with delicate movements, dipped a cloth into a basin of warm water. After wringing it out, she gently wiped the sweat beading on Darius's forehead. "I'm thirsty. Get me some water," he demanded in a rough, irritable voice. Aliya silently took a bottle from the nightstand and poured a glass. She added a straw and carefully brought it to his lips. Darius took a small sip and made a face of disgust. "How do you expect me to drink this? It's room temperature. Bring me ice water right now." Without protest, Aliya took the glass and headed to the water dispenser at the end of the hall. Just then, a floor nurse was changing his IV bag and took the opportunity to speak with her. "Ma'am, you're here again today. Such dedication. Your husband is a very lucky man." Aliya, returning with the cold water, forced a smile. "He's my husband. It's what I should do." "Even so, it's the first time I've seen someone care for their partner so diligently after a kidney transplant. Mr. Darius must have done something truly good in another life to find a wife like you," the nurse said admiringly as she put away the blood pressure cuff. Aliya handed Darius the glass of cold water with ice cubes floating in it. He drank in large gulps and then slammed the glass back onto the nightstand with a loud, abrupt thud. Aliya's heart sank watching him. She tried to take his hand, but Darius violently pulled it away as if her touch burned him, abruptly turning his head. "Nurse, when is the doctor coming?" he asked the healthcare worker directly, ignoring Aliya completely. "Oh yes, rounds are soon. Just a little while longer." The nurse, uncomfortable with the palpable tension between them, left the room with an odd expression. Shortly after, the doctor entered, reviewed Darius's chart, and examined his condition. "The progress is excellent. The transplanted kidney is functioning perfectly," the doctor said, hanging the stethoscope around his neck with satisfaction. "The creatinine levels that concerned you are back to normal." "So, when can I be discharged?" Darius asked impatiently. "If you keep this up, you'll be able to go home very soon." "Thank you so much, doctor," Aliya said, relieved, bowing her head. The doctor looked at her warmly. "You've also been through a lot, Aliya. As the donor, how is your recovery going?" "I'm doing well, thank you." "Still, don't strain yourself. Living with a single kidney isn't easy." As soon as the doctor left, Darius abruptly sat up, as if he had been waiting for that exact moment. He opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out a stiff envelope. "Here." With an expressionless face, he tossed it onto the bed. Aliya, gripped by a terrible premonition, picked it up with trembling hands. She couldn't believe what she saw. It was a divorce agreement. "What? What is this?" Her voice sounded like a whimper. Darius, looking out the window with indifference, replied, "Can't you see it? Are you blind? Sign it. We're done." "Why? Why are you suddenly saying this?" "It's not sudden. I've been thinking about this since before the operation." Darius's voice was cold as ice. Rage began to swell inside Aliya. "Now that you have my kidney and you're fine, you could say that. Yes, I'll make good use of your kidney. You should be grateful for that alone." In that instant, the memory of 3 months ago flashed vividly in Aliya's mind. In that very same hospital room, Darius, wasting away daily from kidney failure, desperately grabbed her hand. His eyes were filled with burning tears. "Aliya, please, save me. I don't want to die like this." Darius buried his face in the back of her hand, sobbing like a child. "They say I can live with one of your kidneys. I'll pay you back for the rest of my life. I swear it. I'll wash your feet every day if I have to. Please, save me. Our son needs me by his side, doesn't he?" he begged, rubbing her hand against his cheek. "How can we let our son grow up without a father?" Aliya, wiping away her tears, made a decision. "I'll give you my kidney. You have to live." "Aliya? Really? You'll really give it to me?" Darius hugged her with a force that nearly broke her. "I love you, Aliya. I truly love you. I'll trust you all my life." Back in the reality of the present, the divorce papers slipped from Aliya's hands and fell to the floor. "Everything you said back then was a lie. More than a lie, it was an act of survival. At the time, it was what I had to do," Darius responded with absolute shamelessness, without a trace of guilt. Just then, the room door flew open. Ms. Vivian Everett, Darius's mother, walked in with an enormous fruit basket and a radiant smile. Seeing the papers on the floor, she feigned shock, picking them up and pointing at Darius, beginning to scold him. "Darius, have you lost your mind? What are you doing? How can you do this to Aliya, the woman who saved your life?" she exclaimed with an exaggerated sigh. "Oh, what a foolish son." Ms. Vivian put an arm around Aliya's shoulders. "Honey, don't get upset. He's sensitive because of the surgery. Be patient with him. He'll come to his senses. You're a woman with a big heart. Try to understand. He'll be back to his old self soon." "Mother," Aliya looked up at her. For an instant, the woman's gaze turned icy, but she immediately recovered her pleasant expression. "My Darius isn't like that, is he?" she said, giving him a sharp look. "No matter what, you can't treat Aliya like this. She's the woman who saved your life." Darius, irritated, turned his head. "Mom, drop it. It's a done deal." "Done deal, my foot! If it weren't for Aliya, you wouldn't be in this world right now," Ms. Vivian yelled, losing control. But Aliya, in the midst of the perfect farce, saw the raw truth. Ms. Vivian's hand, resting on her shoulder, was squeezing with unconscious force. "Sweetheart, it's best if you go home for today. I'll have a serious talk with Darius." Aliya stood up, inert as a puppet. The surgical scar on her side ached like the betrayal itself. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Aliya," Ms. Vivian called her name. "Don't worry, everything will work out." Aliya, her hand on the doorknob, turned slowly. "You knew everything from the beginning too, didn't you?" "What are you saying, honey? Not in my worst dreams." The woman pounded her chest as if she couldn't believe it. "Since your father-in-law passed, I've considered you like a daughter. How can you say something so cruel?" Her performance was flawless, but Aliya was no longer fooled. She walked out of the room without looking back. As she walked down the empty hall, tears streamed down her cheeks. She couldn't believe the price for handing over a vital organ, a part of her own life, was a simple sheet of divorce paper. It was then that she faintly heard the conversation from inside the room. "You did great, my son. Now that we're rid of that burdensome woman, we can start fresh." It was Miss Vivian's true voice. Aliya collapsed onto the floor. The cold hospital hallway tiles seemed to steal the little warmth she had left. 1 week after Darius's discharge, Aliya was packing her things in a small apartment near Mount Sinai Hospital, a cramped, unfamiliar place where she had lived for 2 months to care for him. "I have to go home," she told herself weakly as she put clothes into an empty suitcase. Since his discharge, she hadn't received a single call from Darius. The cold divorce agreement was her last memory of him. She took a cab to the luxury condo complex she also knew as home. The sight of her house caused a knot in her throat. She stopped in front of the door and punched in the security code she always used. Beep, beep! An impersonal metallic sound indicated the code was incorrect. She slowly typed the numbers again. Beep, beep. The door didn't open. Her heart plummeted. Just then, the door clicked open from the inside. A strange woman appeared in the doorway, dressed head to toe in designer clothes, a tight purple silk dress and an ostentatious pearl necklace. "Excuse me, who are you trying to break into someone else's house?" the woman asked, looking her up and down with disdain. "Who am I? This is my house," Aliya retorted, astonished, raising her voice. "Your house? Ha! What nonsense," the woman said with a laugh. "This property belongs to our company. You must be mistaken. What? What are you talking about? Just then, Darius's voice called from inside. Sabrina, who is it? What's all that noise? Darius calmly appeared from the living room. There was no trace of the operation left. He looked completely recovered. He was wearing an expensive designer tracksuit that fit his body well. Ah, it's you, Aliya, he said with the same coldness one gives an annoying stranger on the street. Darius, what is the meaning of all this? And who is this woman? To avoid a scene in front of the neighbors, come inside and we'll talk. Reluctantly, Darius let her in. The interior of the house was completely different. The warm, white-toned furniture Aliya had chosen with such care was gone. In its place was a glossy black leather sofa and a cold marble table. Where are my things? Your furniture? We threw it out, obviously. Who would want to keep that tacky stuff? Sabrina Vance answered, sitting elegantly on the sofa. You threw them out? Aliya's voice trembled. Listen closely, Darius explained coldly, arms crossed. This apartment is now the property of Sabrina's company, so you no longer have any right to live here. That can't be. This is the house we bought together with our blood and sweat. Don't make me laugh. I earned the money, Darius scoffed. Aliya's gaze then fell upon a shelf. Standing lonely there was the old music box Darius had given her when he proposed. An object full of memories, with a ballerina that spun when wound. At least that. Aliya reached out for the music box as if hypnotized, but Darius was faster. He slapped her hand away. This sentimental trinket was still here, he said, showing it off with contempt. No, please don't, Aliya pleaded. I'm sick of your kitsch. Darius smashed the music box onto the marble floor without mercy. Crash. It shattered with a horrible sound. The ballerina's neck snapped and her head rolled away. Why? Why are you doing this? Aliya knelt, picking up the broken pieces. Because I want a clean slate, Darius said, looking down at her. I want to erase everything that connects me to you and start from zero. Sabrina stood up and planted herself in front of Aliya. You should leave before I call the police for trespassing. You'll only complicate things for yourself, won't you? This house is mine too, Aliya cried out desperate. And how are you going to prove it? Does your name appear on the deed? Sabrina laughed. Darius already made sure to tie up all the loose ends. Darius tossed a folder onto the table. You no longer have any property in your name. Aliya reviewed the documents with trembling eyes. Sure enough, everything was in someone else's name. If you look at the papers, you'll see you consented to everything, Darius said triumphantly. Remember all those documents you signed without reading before the operation? Then Aliya understood everything, the countless papers Darius had given her, supposedly necessary for the surgery. You planned all of this from the very beginning, didn't you? You could say that, Darius shrugged, unperturbed. You only wanted my kidney so you could abandon me later. Abandon is such an ugly word. Let's say everyone goes their separate ways. Aliya stood up, tightly clutching the fragments of the music box. Blood welled up from her palm, cut by a sharp piece. You're going to pay for this. Divine punishment will fall upon you. Ooh, scary. A threat. Should we record that, Darius? Sabrina mocked, pulling out her phone. With her bloody hand, Aliya grabbed the doorknob. Just as she was leaving, she heard Darius's voice behind her. Oh, by the way, your stuff is in the utility closet. Your clothes and your handful of junk. Without looking back, Aliya left the apartment. In the elevator, her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. The concierge, with a look of pity, handed her 2 dusty boxes. Man, relationship issues are tough. Hang in there, he said, by way of comfort. Thank you. Aliya left the building with the boxes. The cold night wind lashed at her wounded cheeks. She took a cab to the house of her friend, Maya Brooks, who was also recently divorced. The streetlights, once familiar, were blurry through the window. It was because of the tears. On Maya's living room sofa, Aliya sat, absent, as if her soul had been ripped out. Her lost gaze was fixed on the television, but she saw nothing. She had been like that for 3 days, barely moving from the same position. Aliya, please, eat something. Come on, Maya pleaded, offering her a steaming bowl of soup. I'm not hungry. I don't feel like it. Aliya shook her head weakly. Just one spoonful, you're going to get sick. What will you do if you pass out? Maya forcefully put the spoon in her hand. Aliya took a spoonful at her friend's insistence, but put the spoon back on the plate. Maya, I think it would be better if I just died. What? Aliya, snap out of it! Don't say such foolish things! Maya grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her hard. You're going to die for that scumbag? No way. I was an idiot, a fool. How can anyone be like that? Tears welled up in her dry eyes again. I gave him a piece of my body, I gave him my kidney, and he does this to me. Maya sighed deeply and held her sobbing friend tightly. Aliya, the lawyer who helped me with my divorce. Maya began cautiously. He's really good and competent. Why don't we talk to him? It won't do any good. I have nothing in my name. That bastard took everything. We have nothing to lose by trying. Maybe there's a solution, Maya said, her heart wrenching, grabbing her cell phone. I'm calling him right now. After the call, she told Aliya, he can see us tomorrow afternoon. We're going, no excuses. The following afternoon, Aliya and Maya arrived at the law office. It was a sober, organized atmosphere. A young lawyer escorted them to the conference room. Good morning, I'm Attorney James. Please, have a seat. The attorney politely handed them his business card. Aliya Everett, she said in a thin voice. Maya has already given me the broad strokes of the situation. Could you tell me everything in detail? As if confessing, Aliya told everything. Her husband's kidney failure, her donation, the sudden divorce notice on the day of his discharge, and the meticulously planned fraud to strip her of her assets. Attorney James, with a serious expression, took detailed notes of every word. Do you have any copies of the documents you signed with your husband? No. Darius took them all. I don't have a single one. When exactly was the transfer of assets carried out? Just before the operation. He tricked me into thinking they were necessary papers for the surgery. After hearing the entire story, the attorney shook his head regretfully. To be honest with you, this is a very difficult battle. Aliya's heart sank with that sentence. We can prove the infidelity, but the assets were transferred in a legally impeccable manner, and what's worse, with your consent. So, there's nothing that can be done? She asked in a desperate voice. We can initiate legal proceedings, of course, but the chances of winning are extremely low. Not even after I donated my kidney, an organ that is part of my life? Unfortunately, organ donation is considered a purely voluntary and altruistic act, the lawyer explained, laying out the cold reality of the law. It cannot be considered a transaction in exchange for something, making it very difficult to demand legal compensation. Aliya leaned back in the chair, deflated. So, that monster planned it all from the beginning. Maya, next to her, couldn't contain her anger. That bastard! He deliberately stabbed you in the back! He's a demon! Leaving the office, Aliya and Maya walked in silence. In a big electronics store window, the news blared at full volume. The story of entrepreneur Darius Everett, who, with an iron will, has overcome a serious illness and triumphantly returns to the business world. Darius's healthy, confident face filled the screen. He smiled at the camera. I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the anonymous donor who saved my life. I will never forget their noble sacrifice and will dedicate my life to serving society. What a phony, Maya muttered, unconsciously clenching her fists. Aliya stared intently at the screen, where Darius posed with an angelic face. Maya, I think I'm going to try to see my mother-in-law, she said, like someone clutching at a straw. You think that witch is going to help you? I don't know, but I have to try. At dusk, she went to Miss Vivian's house. She rang the doorbell and soon the door opened. Her mother-in-law looked at her with a glacial expression. What are you doing here? It's me, Mother, Aliya. And what did you come for? She said, blocking the way with her body, opening the door only halfway. Mother, what Darius is doing to me is too cruel. Please, help me. And what do you expect me to do? Miss Vivian sighed with annoyance. It's already a settled matter. What can be done now? You knew everything from the beginning, didn't you? Aliya's eyes filled with tears. Whether I knew or not, what does it matter now? The woman pulled a bulky white envelope from her purse. Take this, and let's settle this once and for all. It was an envelope full of cash. I don't need money. I didn't come for that. Then what else do you want? My son Darius needs to fly high now. He has to start a new life, she said coldly. You go live your life. It's what's best for everyone. Mother, I gave your son a kidney, Aliya cried out, desperate. Yes, and I'll thank you for that all my life. But that can't be a burden on him forever. She forced the envelope into Aliya's hand. Take this and never reappear in our lives. My Darius is about to start a big business, the woman said as she closed the door. So don't be an obstacle in our way anymore. It's a favor I'm asking you. Clank. The door shut mercilessly in her face. Aliya stood there, devastated, in front of the closed door. She left the envelope on the ground and turned away. Each step she took down weighed like a ton. On her way home, in the darkness, she realized she was completely alone in the world. No husband, no family, no home. All she had left was an uncertain and desolate future with a body that was incomplete. On Maya's living room table, rejection letters were piled high. They were the result of her pilgrimage to every law office she could find. They had all turned her away, claiming she had no chance of winning. I guess this is the end, Aliya murmured, weakly sweeping the letters away. What end? We haven't even started. Maya approached with her laptop and set it down in front of Aliya. Aliya, I've been searching all night. What do you think of this lawyer? On the screen was an article from an online magazine, Lincoln Sterling, the attorney for lost causes and unprofitable lawsuits. His success rate is super low, but they say he only operates on conviction. An eccentric who only takes cases he truly believes in, Maya read quickly. They call him the last refuge for all the downtrodden of the world. His success rate is super low? Aliya asked, skeptical. Even so, he's our last chance. Let's try one more time. Okay? Maya put her cell phone in Aliya's hand. The address was for an old, dilapidated office building. The following afternoon, Aliya went to the address alone. It was the third floor of a building that looked about to collapse. At the end of the hall, a small sign the size of a hand precariously hung, Law Office of Lincoln Sterling. She opened the door and found a small office cluttered with mountains of papers. A middle-aged woman, the secretary, looked at her over her glasses. How can I help you? She asked in an indifferent voice. I'd like to speak with the attorney. Do you have an appointment? No, I couldn't get one. The secretary looked at the calendar on the wall. Well, he's fully booked today. You'll have to come back next week. Please, I beg you. It's a very important matter, Aliya pleaded, her voice desperate. I'm sorry, those are the rules. Make an appointment first and then come in, the secretary said, shaking her head definitively. Just as Aliya was turning away, the weight of the world on her shoulders, the door to the inner office opened, and a middle-aged man walked out. He wore a suit that fit him well, but his face reflected all the tiredness in the world. Ms. Ortiz, when is the next appointment? He asked the secretary. In 30 minutes, Mr. Sterling. Good, I'll go out and get some air. As he put on his old coat, Lincoln Sterling's gaze stopped at the folder Aliya was clutching tightly. Among the papers he managed to read, Organ Donor Certificate. He stopped and looked at her face. In her eyes he saw a mix of desperation, deep rage, and resignation. Excuse me, what matter did you come about? He asked Aliya directly. For a divorce? For a consultation? But I don't have an appointment. Does it have something to do with an organ donation? He asked, pointing directly at her papers. Yes, I gave my kidney to my husband, and... Aliya's voice broke, unable to stop herself. Now he has abandoned me and stolen all my assets. Sterling turned to his secretary. Ms. Ortiz, delay the next appointment by an hour. But, Mr. Sterling, that's complicated. Don't worry, I'll call the person myself to apologize. Lincoln Sterling opened his office door wide. Please, come in. Aliya walked in, confused. The walls were covered with shelves crammed full of law books and files that looked about to overflow. On one wall were press clippings of cases he had lost. "Have a seat. Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you." Aliya sat in an old leather chair. "Tell me everything from the beginning, in full detail," Sterling said, opening an old notebook. Aliya began to speak, and everything she had held inside came out in a torrent. Darius's illness, his desperate promises, and the cruel betrayal that struck her right after the operation. She didn't stop crying as she spoke. "You say you signed several documents with your husband before the operation?" Sterling asked incisively. "Yes, he told me they were papers for the surgery and for some kind of investment. I was so foolish I believed everything, and those papers were actually the documents to transfer my assets. Of course, I was so stupid." Aliya wailed, blaming herself. "No, he's the demon for abusing the trust of someone who loved him," Sterling said, putting his pen down on the table. "What is your husband's name?" "Darius Everett, and the company that received the funds, a company in the name of a woman called Sabrina. I don't know much more." Sterling looked thoughtful, a deep expression on his face. "Do you remember anything Darius said about that investment before the surgery?" Aliya dried her tears, trying desperately to remember. "Now that I think about it, he said something about investing in a new biological technology. A biotech investment?" "Yes, when he took me to sign the papers." At that precise moment, something flashed like lightning in Aliya's mind. "Ah, I remember part of the company name. What was it?" "SR Bio. Yes, he said it was SR Bio." Hearing that, Sterling's tired eyes shone with a cold, penetrating light. "SR Bio. The initials of that woman, Sabrina, I suppose?" "Yes, that's the S and the R for Sabrina." Sterling quickly opened his laptop and began searching. "I found it. SR Bio Investments." Information about a small company appeared on the screen. "The date of incorporation is exactly 2 months before your operation." Sterling turned the monitor toward her so she could see. "This is a clear scam, a shell company created from the beginning with the sole intention of deceiving you." Then can I win?" Aliya asked, her eyes filled with new hope. "It won't be an easy battle at all, but it's not impossible either," Sterling said, tidying the scattered papers. "Mr. Everett probably also took out a life insurance policy." "A life insurance policy?" "Yes, to collect a large sum of money if the operation went wrong." Sterling stood up. "I'll take this case. It's not a simple divorce. It's an atrocious crime that has destroyed a person's life." Tears welled up in Aliya's eyes again, but this time they weren't tears of despair, but of hope. In Lincoln Sterling's old, cluttered office, Aliya felt for the first time that she had found an ally, and she broke down, releasing all the pain and rage she had suppressed. Sterling silently offered her a glass of water. "Calm down. The real battle starts now." Aliya drank a sip of water with trembling hands and managed to calm herself. "Are you really going to help me? From the moment I accept a case, I see it through to the end, no matter what." Sterling showed her his laptop screen. "While we were talking, I've been tracking the capital flow of that company, SR Bio." A transaction history so complex it made her dizzy was on the screen. "Just before the operation, a large sum of money was moved to this account all at once. That's the money from the sale of our house," Aliya said, recognizing the figure. "Over $400,000 transferred in a single day." Sterling opened another file. "But there's something strange. What is it? This company is a perfect cover. It has no real commercial activity. It is, in short, a ghost company created by Mr. Everett and that woman, Sabrina." "So they approached me with the intention of robbing me from the start?" "Exactly. But this is just the beginning. There's an even bigger problem." Sterling began searching a national insurance database. "Do you remember signing any papers related to insurance before the operation?" Aliya desperately searched her memory. "Ah, now that I think about it, yes. Darius said it was in case the operation was complicated." Aliya's face suddenly went pale. "Don't tell me the insurance was in my name." As Sterling checked the database, his expression hardened until it became glacial. "A $1 million life insurance policy. The designated beneficiary is your husband, Darius Everett." "What? What did you say?" Aliya jumped out of her chair. Sterling pointed to the screen. "The structure is designed so that if you had died during the operation, Mr. Everett would have collected the full $1 million. Aliya, her legs giving way, collapsed back into the chair. "So, they could have killed me." "It's a very high possibility. But since the operation was a success, they changed their plan," Sterling said, tidying the papers. "They opted to keep the kidney and get rid of you cleanly with the divorce." "How can a human being commit such a devilish atrocity?" Aliya covered her face with her hands. "Attorney, is this evidence enough?" "No, not yet. They have everything perfectly tied up and disguised. We need irrefutable proof," Sterling said, looking her straight in the eye. "The most solid thing would be a voice recording in which Darius or his mother admit the entire plan." "And how am I supposed to get something like that?" "There's a way, although it's risky." Sterling opened a desk drawer and pulled out a tiny device the size of a fingernail, a miniature recorder. "And what am I supposed to do with this?" "Go see your mother-in-law again," Sterling said, handing her the recorder. "If you appear desperate, like someone who has nothing left to lose, she'll surely let her guard down." "And what should I say when I see her?" "Beg her to forgive you, that you'll drop everything. Implore her not to do this to you for the sake of the child you might have had." Aliya took the recorder with trembling hands. "And you think they'll reveal their true intentions that way?" "It's very likely. The mother, especially, will be eager to boast about how smart and brilliant her son is." Sterling explained the plan in detail. "Do you know of any place your mother-in-law goes regularly?" "Yes, she goes to a luxury spa on the Upper East Side every Thursday afternoon." "Perfect. Go there this Thursday." Aliya nodded, determined. "Do you think you can do this?" "You can do it. No, you must do it," Sterling said, looking her in the eyes with firmness. "It's the battle to reclaim your life." Aliya tightly clenched the recorder in her hand. "But attorney, yes, tell me, why are you helping me so much to this extent?" Sterling was silent for a moment, looking out the window. "My little sister went through something similar," he said with a sad smile. "And back then, I didn't know anything, and I couldn't do anything to help her." Aliya looked at Sterling. In the deep regret reflected in his eyes, she felt his sincerity. "Thank you. Truly, thank you." "You can thank me after we win the lawsuit," Sterling said, standing up. "When you finish recording on Thursday, call me immediately." As Aliya was about to leave the office, she turned around. "Attorney, what if I fail?" "Don't think about failure," Sterling said flatly. "But just in case, save my number on speed dial number 1 on your cell phone." Aliya left the office. As she waited for the elevator, she touched the recorder in her pocket. She felt the cold touch of the metal on her fingertips. The time had come to play the most miserable role of her life. It was 3 days until Thursday. Starting that day, Aliya began to rehearse day and night in front of the mirror. The most wretched expression, the most pleading voice, the gestures of someone completely broken. "Mother, please, forgive me one more time. It was all my fault," she said to herself, looking at her own shattered reflection. She practiced how to cry uncontrollably, even how to kneel. Just then, her phone rang. It was Attorney Sterling. "How are the preparations going?" "Well, I'm trying hard." "I just discovered something else." Sterling's voice became grave. "It seems Mr. Everett prepared another document right before the operation." "What is it?" "It's an agreement stipulating that in the event of your passing during the surgery, all your assets would automatically transfer to him." A chill ran through Aliya. "Then he truly wished for my death." "Yes, if you had died on the operating table, they would have kept everything." A silence fell on the other end of the line. Aliya's gaze turned cold as ice. She looked at her reflection in the mirror again. This was no longer an act. It was the true beginning of her revenge. Thursday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In front of a luxurious spa on the Upper East Side, crowded with high-end cars, Aliya, purposely dressed in old, worn clothes, had created a fragile appearance, looking as if she were about to faint. Her hair was deliberately messy, and her face was pale, without a drop of makeup, waiting at the agreed-upon spot. Shortly after, a familiar black Mercedes gently pulled up to the entrance. The chauffeur courteously opened the back door, and Ms. Vivian, splendidly dressed, stepped out. She was covered in luxury brands from head to toe and wore arrogant sunglasses. Aliya approached her, stumbling as if she were about to fall. "Mother." Ms. Vivian, seeing Aliya suddenly appear, wrinkled her face in an expression of disgust. "What are you doing here, dear? I've been waiting for you since this morning, just to see you." Aliya's voice sounded like it was about to break into sobs. "Are you crazy? Don't make a scene here, it's embarrassing." The woman looked around nervously. Wealthy women entering and leaving the spa were whispering as they watched them. Please, just listen to me for a moment," Aliya pleaded, desperately grabbing Ms. Vivian's arm. "Let go of my arm. Everyone is looking at us." Ms. Vivian shoved her away abruptly, as if touching something dirty. At that precise moment, Aliya knelt on the ground. "Mother, I beg you, I'm asking you this way." All the passers-by stopped, surprised, to look. Ms. Vivian's face turned bright red. "You get up right now! Right now!" The embarrassed woman pulled Aliya's arm to lift her. "Come with me. We'll talk somewhere else, but not here." Ms. Vivian dragged Aliya like a sack to the building's fire escape. As soon as they entered the cold concrete stairwell landing, she shoved her. "What is the meaning of this spectacle? You are completely crazy!" she yelled furiously. "Mother, I am so sorry," Aliya said, crying bitterly while remaining on the floor. "It was all my fault, absolutely everything. I've caused irreparable harm to Darius," Aliya continued between sobs. "I was a terrible wife. It's normal that he would leave me." Miss Vivian's sharp expression softened a bit. "Well, it seems you finally realize your place." "Yes, Mother, I didn't deserve to be by Darius's side," Aliya cried inconsolably. "I told you, you finally realize your place." "Mother, please give me a chance." Aliya prostrated herself at Miss Vivian's feet. "I'll treat Darius well again. From now on, I'll be like his dog, like his slave. I'll do whatever it takes." "It's too late. My Darius is very happy with Sabrina," the woman said coldly. "Mother, I truly feel like I'm dying," Aliya cried, hitting the floor. "I can't live without Darius. Please save me." "Shut up. What's the use of all this now?" Ms. Vivian took out the familiar white envelope from her purse. "Take this and never appear in our lives again." It was a bulky envelope full of money. "You knew everything from the beginning, didn't you?" Aliya asked in a trembling voice. "What?" "That Darius would abandon me after the operation." Ms. Vivian let out a contemptuous laugh. "Do you really doubt the obvious? He's my son. I gave birth to him." She threw the envelope in Aliya's face. "You are so foolish. Take this and get lost." Aliya picked up the envelope from the floor, sobbing. "Please don't ever reappear in our lives, neither Darius's nor mine. Understood?" the woman warned one last time. Yes, I promise," Aliya cried, still prostrate on the ground. "You earned this." Ms. Vivian went down the stairs with a mocking smile. Aliya continued her act, sobbing in the same spot until the woman's footsteps completely faded away. A moment later, Aliya slowly lifted her head. The tears running down her cheeks stopped as if by magic. She took the small recorder out of her pocket and checked that the red light was still on. She carefully went down the stairs and entered the spa lobby. Miss Vivian was sitting on a lounge chair talking to someone on the phone. Aliya quickly hid behind a large pillar. Miss Vivian, with a triumphant voice, was talking to a friend as she headed toward a private changing room. Aliya followed her in silence. The changing room door closed, but the woman's excited voice was clearly heard in the hallway. "Oh, darling, it's me. I just witnessed the most comical scene. Aliya came to beg me on her knees. How pathetic she was." Miss Vivian's vulgar laugh continued. "But hey, thanks to fooling that idiot, my son saved his life." Aliya's hand trembled with rage, but she squeezed the recorder even harder. "Free kidney and all her assets. A sweet deal, right?" the woman said triumphantly. "Darling, is there another idiot like her in this world who would give a vital organ for love?" Aliya's gaze turned cold as ice. "Well, it's not like my Darius planned it from the start, but in the end, everything worked out perfectly. And when he met Sabrina, the opportunity became even better. It's truly the end for Aliya. I threw an envelope full of cash at her, and she cried with gratitude." "Ha ha ha!" Miss Vivian's scornful laughter echoed out of the changing room. Aliya left in silence and exited the building. In the underground parking garage, she found Miss Vivian's black Mercedes. The chauffeur was dozing in the driver's seat. About 10 minutes later, Miss Vivian appeared with a refreshed look after her massage and got into the car. As soon as the car started, she called someone again. The window was slightly open. Aliya, hidden behind a pillar, raised the recorder again. "Darius, it's Mom. I've taken care of the Aliya situation. I've resolved everything. She's completely given up, so don't worry, and start planning the wedding with that girl, Sabrina." The car left the parking garage. Aliya pressed the stop button on the recording. The screen confirmed that the file had been saved correctly. She pulled out her cell phone and called Lincoln Sterling. "Attorney, it's me. I got it." "You did great. Can you send me the file right now?" "Yes, I'm sending it now." Aliya sent the audio file to the attorney. A moment later, Sterling called her. "Confirmed? It's perfect!" Sterling's voice sounded excited. "We now have the bomb we needed to detonate at trial." Aliya looked back toward the spa building. Her mother-in-law would have no idea how perfectly she had been deceived. Walking down the street, Aliya smiled for the first time. It wasn't an acted smile, but one of someone anticipating an exciting victory. The time until the trial flew by. In Lincoln Sterling's office, cluttered with mountains of papers, Aliya reviewed documents with the attorney. The date for the first trial had been set for next Tuesday. Sterling showed her the court notification. "Before that, we're going to issue a declaration of war. We'll start by sending a formal legal notice." "A legal notice? What's that?" "It's a way of officially notifying Darius Everett and that woman that we know about all their crimes." Sterling immediately drafted the legal notice. It detailed all the charges precisely and sharply: planned asset fraud, attempted $1 million life insurance scam, and despicable infidelity. "Is it okay to show them all our cards like this?" Aliya asked, concerned. "To catch the snake, you have to flush it out of its hole. This legal notice will be the stick that stirs the hornet's nest," Sterling said, putting the document into an envelope for certified delivery. "When they realize their perfect plan has been completely uncovered, they'll panic and make mistakes." Days later, in the luxury apartment where Darius and Sabrina lived, the couple was relaxing, drinking wine in the living room. "The biotech thing is moving along great. We'll hit the jackpot soon," Darius said, satisfied, looking at his tablet. Just then, the doorbell rang loudly. A mail carrier delivered a certified envelope and left. "What is this? Looks like it's from the court." Darius opened the envelope, not giving it much thought. As he read the contents of the legal notice, his face fell apart. How? How is this possible? How do they know? "What is it? What's all the fuss about?" Sabrina snatched the paper from his hands and read it. "They even know that SR Bio is a shell company." Sabrina's hand trembled like a leaf. Who? Who is helping that bitch Aliya?" Darius yelled, grabbing the phone. Mom, we have a huge problem." Ms. Vivian's calm voice came from the other side. "Don't panic and explain yourself. What's going on, Aliya?" Darius frantically explained the situation. "Find our lawyer immediately. I don't care what it costs," his mother screamed, desperate. "Didn't Sabrina's family have a trusted firm? Call there!" Sabrina took the phone and with trembling hands dialed a number. "Dad, it's Sabrina. Something very urgent has come up." The next day, Darius and Sabrina went to the largest law firm in the country. The managing partner of the firm received them. "Don't worry, I've handled hundreds of cases like this," the lawyer said confidently. "Even if they have evidence in the end, a trial is a battle of interpretations." "But they say they have a recording with my mother's voice," Darius said, unable to hide his anxiety. "We can argue it was maliciously edited. We will contend that the important thing is the complete context of the conversation," the lawyer said, calmly tidying the papers. "Depending on the situation, we can even countersue for false accusation and defamation." Meanwhile, Aliya was eating a simple dinner with Maya. "How are the preparations for the trial going?" "Well, Attorney Sterling is treating it like his own case." Aliya put her spoon down on the plate. "Maya, I need to see Darius one last time." "What? Why? What if something happens to you?" "Before going to war, I want to give him one last chance to surrender." Maya looked at her, full of concern. "Okay, but please be very careful." The next night, Aliya went to the luxury restaurant Darius and Sabrina usually frequented. Checking the reservation list, their names were there. She walked into the restaurant. At the best table, next to the window, they were sitting drinking wine. "Long time no see," Aliya said, stopping in front of their table. "What are you doing here?" Darius jumped up, as if he had seen a ghost. "Sit down. I came to talk to you." Aliya naturally grabbed a chair from the next table and sat down. "What do you think you're doing?" Sabrina snapped, visibly irritated. "Get out of here before I call the manager." "Call him whenever you want, but you'd better listen to what I have to say first." Aliya pulled some papers from her purse and threw them onto the table. They were the transcription of Ms. Vivian's recording and the excerpts from the suspicious financial transactions. "What is this?" Darius's face turned white as paper. "It's the evidence of your crimes." "Only a part," Aliya said in a voice cold as ice. "I've come to give you one last opportunity before going to trial." "What opportunity?" "Get on your knees and apologize right now and give back everything you took from me." Darius let out a scornful laugh. "Yeah, right. What do you know to come here with this?" "I know everything. That you approached me with the intention of deceiving me from the start," Aliya said, looking him directly in the eyes. "And that you took out a life insurance policy in my name, hoping I would die in the operation. Everything." Thump. Sabrina slammed her hand on the table. "This is all fake. You're trying to blackmail us." "Fake? Fake is your miserable life," Aliya said, standing up. "My offer ends here. We'll continue the rest of the story in court." "Hey, Aliya!" Darius yelled, losing his temper. "If you take one more step, I swear I won't hold back." "You won't hold back? What will you do to me?" She turned around slowly. "Tear out the other kidney I have left, you crazy jerk!" Darius grabbed her arm hard. In that instant, all the restaurant patrons turned to look. "Let go of my arm," Aliya said in a quiet but firm voice. Darius, aware of the stares, reluctantly let her go. "The truth that comes out in court won't just be this," Aliya said with a final glacial sentence. "I will bring to light all the other secrets you are trying so hard to bury." She left the restaurant without looking back. Behind her, she heard the hurried voices of Darius and Sabrina. "What do we do? It seems that girl really knows everything." "Shut up. The lawyer will fix everything, but I'm very nervous." Aliya walked out onto the street. The cold night wind cooled her flushed face. Just then, her phone rang. It was Lincoln Sterling. "Aliya, all the preparations for the trial are perfectly ready." "Thank you, attorney. By the way, the other side has hired the biggest firm in the country. It won't be an easy battle." "It doesn't matter," Aliya said, looking at the night sky. "The truth is on our side." In the dark sky, one star shone with special intensity. In a few days, the trial where everything was at stake would begin. Aliya was no longer afraid of anything. The day of the trial arrived. In front of the Manhattan Supreme Court, a crowd of journalists had gathered since early morning. The heartless husband who abandoned his wife after receiving her kidney. The case had captured the attention of the entire city. Aliya arrived with Lincoln Sterling, both with serious expressions. "Don't be nervous, we're just going to tell the truth," Sterling encouraged her, patting her shoulder. "I'm fine, attorney." Inside, the courtroom was packed. In the defendant's dock, Darius and Sabrina were flanked by 3 lawyers. Ms. Vivian, in the front row, watched them with arrogance. "Defendants Darius Everett and Sabrina Vance, please rise," the judge declared, opening the session. "The defense has the floor." Lincoln Sterling stood up. "Your Honor, this case is not a simple divorce over a loss of love. It is an act of planned asset predation, a miserable scam that took advantage of a person's kindness and sacrifice." "Objection!" Darius's lawyer jumped up. "The plaintiff's attorney is resorting to fiction to defame my clients." "Everything will be proven with evidence," Sterling countered, connecting his laptop to the courtroom screen. He showed the documents for SR Bio. This company, chaired by the defendant Sabrina Vance, was quickly created just 2 months before the plaintiff's kidney transplant operation. And just before the surgery, the entirety of my client's assets, $430,000, was transferred to this shell company. "It was a legitimate investment, agreed upon by both parties," Darius's lawyer counterattacked. "The plaintiff signed all the documents." "Agreed upon?" At that moment, my client was about to donate her own kidney to save her husband's life. Do you think a lucid and normal consent was possible in such a desperate situation? That is a purely sentimental assumption, and this too. Sterling showed the $1 million life insurance policy with Darius as the beneficiary. This was also a legitimate precaution. A surgery always carries risks. It was a legitimate insurance contract to foresee any eventuality. Darius's face tensed. And why was it taken out in the plaintiff's name with the defendant as the beneficiary? Isn't that a structure designed for the defendant to collect a fortune if his wife died on the operating table? The judge looked at Darius coldly. "Defendant, explain yourself." "It was just in case. There was no ill intent." "Just in case?" Sterling challenged him. "Are you telling me there was no ill intent in planning to collect a fortune if your wife died?" "Objection! He is treating the defendant like a criminal." The judge called for silence. "Does the defense have any witnesses to call?" "Yes, Your Honor. We call the bank employee who managed the fund transfer." A neat-looking bank employee took the stand. "Do you remember the day of October 15th last year, around 3 in the afternoon?" "Yes, I remember it perfectly. Mr. Darius Everett and Ms. Sabrina Vance came in." Upon that statement, Sabrina's face twisted in surprise. They withdrew a large sum of cash and requested to transfer a portion to an offshore account, a total of $430,000 originating from the cancellation of Ms. Aliya Everett's time deposit. Darius jumped up. "That was money for an investment." "Defendant, sit down. One more interruption and I will have you removed from the courtroom," the judge warned him. Sterling continued. "Was the account holder, Ms. Aliya Everett, present?" "No, only those 2 came in." "How was a transfer of such magnitude possible without the holder?" "Mr. Everett brought a power of attorney and a signature certificate. However, the signature on the power of attorney seemed different than usual to us, trembling and unnatural. That is a personal assumption by the witness," Darius's lawyer protested. "No, we are obligated to verify the signature. That's why we tried to call the client, Ms. Aliya, to confirm." "And what happened?" "Mr. Darius Everett aggressively prevented us from doing so, saying his wife was busy at the hospital preparing for an operation and that under no circumstances could we call her." The entire courtroom murmured in shock. "And where was the plaintiff, Aliya Everett, at that moment?" "I was admitted, preparing for surgery," Aliya replied from her seat, wiping away a tear. "The next day I was donating my kidney to my husband." Darius's face turned red with rage. "Your Honor, I request a recess." 10-minute recess. In the hallway, the shouts of Darius and Sabrina were heard. "Are you crazy? Why didn't you tell me the bank guy could testify? Not in my worst nightmares did I think they would call him." When the session resumed, Sterling announced his final evidence. "Your Honor, the recording of the defendant's mother, Ms. Vivian Everett." Ms. Vivian in the courtroom let out a cry. That is illegal! No, Your Honor. It was recorded by the plaintiff, who was a party to the conversation. It is admissible evidence. Miss Vivian's cruel and mocking voice resonated through the courtroom. How clever my Darius is, fooling an idiot like you to get a free kidney and all her money. A sweet deal. Hearing her own voice, the woman shrieked and collapsed to the floor. Mom! Darius jumped from his seat to help her. An ambulance, quick! The courtroom erupted into chaos. The judge suspended the session. Upon leaving, journalists surrounded Aliya. How do you feel after today's trial? The truth cannot be hidden. In the end, everything will come to light, Sterling replied, protecting her. Today, the first crack had appeared in their fortress, but the real battle was not yet over. On the day of the second hearing, the internet was flooded with headlines. The monster who betrayed his kidney donor wife, the sordid truth. The anticipation was immense. Darius arrived haggard, with dark circles and sunglasses. Mr. Everett, do you have anything to say? It's all a misunderstanding. The truth will be known in court, he replied in a shaky voice. The courtroom was even fuller than on the first day. Miss Vivian, though discharged, did not dare to appear. Sterling stood up. Your Honor, today I will present medical evidence that proves the defendant's guilt with his own body. This is a specialist's report on the immunosuppressants Mr. Everett is taking. And what does that have to do with anything? Darius's lawyer asked. These drugs, combined with extreme stress, can cause acute rejection of the transplanted organ, leading to necrosis. Darius shifted restlessly. Sterling projected thousands of headlines and hateful comments against him on the internet. Objection! This has nothing to do with the case. Objection overruled, the judge said. Ms. Vivian's recording played again. Darius's body began to tremble uncontrollably. Are you feeling well, Mr. Everett? Yes, I'm fine. Sterling delivered the next blow, the text messages between Darius and Sabrina. As soon as the operation is over, we'll get rid of her. Don't worry, Aliya was just a disposable card. The public gasped in indignation. How did you get these? Sabrina shouted. With a court order, of course. In that instant, Darius grabbed his side. Ah, my kidney hurts! He fell to the floor, writhing in pain. The defendant has collapsed. Call medical services, the judge yelled. As he was being carried out on a stretcher, Sabrina whispered to her lawyer, Attorney, what about me? Can I get out of this? Ms. Vance, what are you saying? I'm not your wife or anything. We were just business partners. She tried to leave, but the judge stopped her. Defendant, you cannot leave the courtroom without permission. The trial was postponed again. Upon leaving, journalists surrounded Aliya. Your husband collapsed in front of you. How do you feel? Aliya looked at the cameras. He has reaped what he sowed. A single sentence, cold as ice, and she pushed her way through the crowd. In the emergency room, the doctor was clear with Ms. Vivian. Acute rejection. The extreme stress has damaged the transplanted kidney. In the worst case, it will have to be removed, and he'll have to return to dialysis for life. No! Dialysis, no! I don't want to go back to that hell! Darius screamed from the bed. Calm down, son. We'll get another kidney. Who is going to give me a kidney now? Sabrina walked into the room. Darius, darling. Sabrina, you came. His eyes lit up. I'm sorry, but this is as far as I go. My father told me to go abroad. I've asked my lawyer to remove me from the case. You're abandoning me? No, everyone just goes their separate ways, she said, using his own words. Goodbye. And she left. Darius stared at the empty ceiling, desperate. The kidney he had stolen from Aliya now hurt like the betrayal itself. 1 year later. In downtown Los Angeles, at the inauguration ceremony for the Phoenix Legacy Foundation for Women's Rights, Aliya, as president, took the podium. Good morning, everyone. 1 year ago, I went through the darkest, longest tunnel of my life. But thanks to the help and support of many, I was able to stand up. Now, I want to share that courage and that hope with others who, like me, are walking through a dark tunnel. May this foundation be a small seed of that hope. Applause filled the room. In the audience, Lincoln Sterling and Maya Brooks looked at her with pride. "Congratulations, Madam President. You are the strongest, most admirable woman I have ever met." "It's all thanks to you, Attorney. Without you, it was your bravery that accomplished everything. Look at you. You're unrecognizable, Aliya. You shine." "I'm not unrecognizable. I've simply found my place." Aliya smiled. At the same time, in the dialysis unit of a hospital in New York, the rhythmic beeping of the machine marked time. Darius, pale and vacant, stared at the ceiling. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Everett?" "Same as always," he replied weakly. An older patient in the bed next to him asked, "Hey, young man, so young and already on dialysis, what happened to you?" "The kidney I had transplanted failed." "Wow, that's a shame. And who donated it to you? With how difficult that is." "My wife. Well, my ex-wife," Darius replied, closing his eyes. "And you can't get another one?" "The waiting list is years long. Who knows when?" His old cell phone rang. It was his mother. "Son, are you feeling better today? Hey, did you pay the rent for the residence this month?" "Not yet. I don't have a dime in the account." "Oh, and that Sabrina? Any sign of her?" "No. She fled abroad a long time ago. I can't take it anymore either. Living here is very expensive." "I know. Don't worry about me anymore." He hung up. He looked out the window. The sky was gray, and it was starting to rain. Meanwhile, at Los Angeles International Airport, Sabrina Vance had just landed, wearing sunglasses. She walked quickly, ready to forget the nightmare of the East Coast and start anew. Ms. Sabrina Vance. Some people spoke to her in familiar English. They were agents from the U.S. Attorney's Office. "You are under arrest for money laundering and flight abroad. You will be extradited to New York immediately." Her face turned white as paper. "You can give your excuses to the judge there." Back at the foundation in Los Angeles, Aliya was reviewing the file of the first beneficiary, a woman who had fled home with her young son due to her husband's violence. "We have to help her as soon as possible," Aliya said, signing the authorization without hesitation. As she left work, she paused in front of a store. In the window was a beautiful music box, a spinning ballerina, similar to the one Darius had given her. She looked at it for a moment and shook her head. "I don't need it anymore," she told herself, and she continued on her way. In a coffee shop, she opened her laptop and wrote on the foundation's website, "Wounds don't disappear. They turn into scars. But scars don't just hurt, they also make us stronger. Today, I choose hope instead of despair." The messages of gratitude soon poured in. "Thanks to you, I found the courage to move forward. I can also leave my past behind and start anew. Thank you for giving us hope." A warm smile appeared on her face. Her phone rang. It was Lincoln Sterling. "Madam President, I have excellent news." "What is it, Attorney?" "Sabrina Vance has been arrested in the United States and extradited to New York today." "I see," Aliya replied calmly. "And Darius's mother has also been charged with concealing her son's assets." "Then, is everything truly over?" "Yes, it's all over." She hung up and looked out the window. The sun was setting, staining the sky a beautiful reddish color. Upon arriving at her new, small but cozy apartment, the warm air enveloped her. In the living room, instead of the old photos, there were new ones. A photo at the foundation's inauguration, smiling with Lincoln Sterling, a fun picture with Maya. In all of them, her face radiated happiness. She sat on the sofa and opened her journal. "Today, my terrible revenge has ended, but my life, the real one, has just begun. I can be happy with just one kidney. I'm going to be the happiest person in the world." She put down the pen and looked out the window. Stars were beginning to appear in the night sky. The next morning, on her way to the foundation, her steps were lighter than ever. People on the street moved with energy, each with their own hope. Aliya naturally mingled with them. The painful melodies of the past were just a distant echo. Now, Aliya was composing the new, vibrant symphony of her own life with her own strength. Did you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.